The Rose of Versailles is a historical fiction romance manga by Ryoko Ikeda that centers around Marie Antoinette and the captain of the royal guard, Lady Oscar. Serialized in 1972 in the shoujo magazine Margaret, The Rose of Versailles has captured the hearts of many. I've always been aware of this title, and I knew that the author Ryoko Ikeda was part of the Year 24 group, who are the authors that revolutionized shoujo manga in the 70s, but I had never read it. I mean, I knew who Lady Oscar was because I would always see images of her on forums and blogs dedicated to shoujo manga and anime, and I would notice when other anime and manga would reference it, and popular authors would often cite it as one of their biggest inspirations. After watching Kageki Shoujo, a great anime about a young girl wanting to play Lady Oscar on stage, I decided that it was high time I finally checked out Rose of Versailles. I think I avoided it for so long because I didn't think that I would enjoy historical fiction that A, did not have fantasy in it, and B, centered around real-life monarchy, especially the French monarchy House of Bourbon. Because I was well versed in the history, I did not care to see another romanticized depiction of Marie Antoinette that displayed the opulent decadence of Versailles or the false simplicity of the pastoral fantasy that glossed over the fact that it was all made possible due to the suffering of tens of thousands of people. And I'm not just talking in France, I'm talking about the French colonies too. It takes a short while for me to say, forget the guillotine, draw for the machete and draw for the cutlass. But I digress. The beautiful art and the fictional character of Lady Oscar were the biggest draw for me. She is the breakout star. Watching Oscar, Andre, and Rosalie become entangled in the dangerous yet frivolous lives of these self-absorbed nobles in Versailles was captivating. Watching how Oscar goes from a slightly better than average noble, then renouncing her duties to the crown and fully joining the revolution because she witnessed firsthand that it wasn't just the exceptionally cruel nobles that harmed the common people, it was the obliviousness and the apathy and the petty squabbles that also harmed them too. All the themes of honor, duty, queer love, gender expression, gender expectations are all tied up with rebellion and revolution. I finally understood why the story and the characters were so beloved and were incredibly influential for over 50 years. So when I first heard that there was going to be a new movie, I was delighted that this legendary series was going to be introduced to a whole new audience, and surprisingly enough, the ever-controversial studio Mappa was behind it. Directed by Ai Yoshimura, who has directed episodes of Black Butler, The Daily Lives of High School Boys, Gintama, and Anohana. My first impression after viewing the trailer was that this looks stunning. The character designs, first of all, I'm glad they stuck to the original style of the manga with how the facial features are drawn and the big sparkly starburst eyes that was a staple in many shoujo manga of the 70s. When it finally dropped on Netflix and watching the whole thing, you can tell that the budget was here. I love the masquerade scene so much. Everything was just so lush and beautifully rendered, wonderfully depicting the insane opulence that was Versailles in both background and foreground that hasn't really been done before. That's not to say that it wasn't any beautifully done backgrounds in the manga, it's just that Ikeda chose to focus in on the characters more through negative space and the usage of screen tones. As for the 70s anime, limited animation was used because of budget, so they opted for dark shadows with effective lighting techniques and staging and composition. I feel that this movie is one of the best visually speaking with how it resembles the real-life Versailles Palace. Fun fact, the Palace of Versailles, as beautiful as it looks, fucking stank. Like piss, shit and perfume. The Rose of Versailles is a very character-driven story with plenty of political intrigue, and with a runtime of 2 hours, I was curious as to how they would streamline this plot while retaining the complexities that were woven into all 10 volumes of the manga. They tried to do that through a narrator who would pop up every now and then.
In the mid-18th century, the situation in Europe was chaotic and unstable.
So, about 6 minutes after the opening title song,
May our souls bloom in love, the Rose of Versailles,
came another song that was from the point of view of Marie Antoinette.
everything you see now here is mine. My future is bright and all will be fine.
This was a musical. The trailers that I watched never indicated that this was going to be a musical. But then again, I avoided all news about the film until it was time to watch, so trust, I was surprised. Although it was jarring at first, the choice of making this a musical made sense. The very first adaptation of The Rose of Versailles was a stage musical by the famed Takarazuka Revue, an all-female musical theatre troupe. In fact, The Rose of Versailles has been a staple production of the Revue since its debut in 1974. This is completely unrelated, but shout out to Slime Tutorials, just wish some of them had subtitles. Most of the songs here, except for two, were non-diegetic, meaning that none of the characters were actually singing the songs themselves. It was more like the songs were their thoughts and feelings depicted through a music video montage, which is not my cup of tea. I prefer when musicals tell the story through their characters actually singing the song, and it has more staging with their environments. And I guess this was a bit too abstract for me. Then there were the lyrics. I watched it in both English and Japanese, and the Japanese would use a lot of English lyrics, and the English version would also use those same lyrics, even though sometimes grammatically they didn't fit as much. I guess a great example would be the song that plays when Alan and Oscar duel, called Never Surrender. So the lyric is, "We are warrior, never surrender." I guess it was more jarring to hear that sung in English all through, because to me, I'm thinking, why didn't you change it to, like, I don't know, "We are warriors, we won't surrender," because I felt that would have flowed better. It's fine. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, and for all I know, they were contractually obligated to keep it that way, seeing as the song is called Never Surrender. So, yeah. On a more positive note, something I noticed when I watched for the fourth time to go over my notes were the two songs that were outliers. Our King and Queen is a very short song of the Parisians celebrating their new monarchs.
We bid farewell to the past and to poverty. No longer will we fear being ill or having nothing much to eat.
Towards the end, Anger and Pain, led by Bernard Chatelet, who's rallying the people against the nobility. Both of these songs use the same melody as the title song and act as a reprise to show how the people's attitudes have changed drastically. These are the only songs that are more grounded in a reality, being diegetic and not having that abstract, dreamlike music video montage that we've seen used throughout the film. This was definitely a deliberate choice to show that stark contrast between the way the nobles view their lives as these glossy, dreamlike moments and the way the common people view their own lives. I just wish we had more moments of it to highlight that difference further. All the vocal talent for both Japanese and English did a fantastic job. I recognize many familiar names. Shout out to Aya Hirano. I would say my favorite song would have to be Anger and Pain and Liberation. So the reviews have been mixed. I haven't seen that many die-hard fans come out and say that they absolutely love this adaptation. They are quite lukewarm about it and were left disappointed, especially with the ending being a bunch of text during the end credits. I didn't like that either. I too would have liked to see everything that led to Marie Antoinette's execution. Personally, I think that they omitted that because not enough time was spent with the poor characters who were victimized by the nobility and caught up in their mess, like Rosalie. She was barely even in the movie. Yeah, there's just a lot of missing context that probably would have made the execution feel unearned. But I'm not mad at this film. The Rose of Versailles has been adapted many, many times, and each adaptation has done its own thing and made numerous changes. I think longtime fans were more excited to see these characters with a fresh coat of paint. As for newcomers, the reception has been quite positive, with some even calling it an anime version of Les Miserables, which is interesting. And I've seen more people call it confusing, which is understandable. If this is your introduction to Rose of Versailles and your interest is piqued even just a little bit, I suggest you seek out the manga and go back and watch the 70s TV series. Listen to fans who are saying that the movie barely scratched the surface because the full story insanely dramatizes many real-life events, like Marie Antoinette's rivalry with Madame du Barry, who like shows up in the movie for like 4 seconds. And like in the manga and in the anime, it was a whole arc.
ベルサイユは大変な人手ですこと。
Then there's the infamous affair of the diamond necklace incident that led the French public to really, really turn on Marie Antoinette. I mentioned at the start of the video that the Rose of Versailles is listed as a huge inspiration for many big names in manga and anime whose works are considered classics. It has been referenced to hell and back across many different genres, but when interacting in spaces where there aren't any shoujo aficionados, I'd often hear the Rose of Versailles get referred to as simply the shoujo manga that inspired Berserk, and that's it. Even during the lead up to the release on Netflix, I saw channels dedicated to talking about new releases in anime say this as well. Like, damn, what a way to diminish its legacy. So I definitely feel that people who say they are big fans of these authors should see exactly why it inspired them. And I understand the general avoidance of not wanting to watch vintage anime. So anything before the 90s, I guess, is considered vintage at this point. Just because of how outdated it looks and the limited animation, very cost-effective quality over here. I get it. But I just think it's very interesting to see what came before, especially how the androgynous girl prince archetype came to be. Because Lady Oscar took the baton from Princess Knight and birthed so many girl princes that we know and love today. I really do hope we get more anime of shoujo manga from the 70s that resemble the original character designs with the, prominent noses and the starburst eyes, because that style stands out among the others right now and offers a lot more variety. Maybe it's time for a new Glass Mask anime, or another classic like The Poem of Wind and Trees. I mean, it happened for Banana Fish and that came out in the 80s, so why not? As always, thank you for watching. Shout out to my patrons, Cheyenne Lynn, Ariana Hook, Kemi, Mariah, M. Zaid, Jill Finns, Desin Hill Richard Campbell, Taylor Moore, Critica, Hyphenated, Go Love, Amrit S, Isabel A. Ledger, Malpertuous, Super Keeg, and Mox. Consider joining for exclusive videos, updates, and more. Bye!